The microphone is muted. Excellent start. Good evening. It is Tuesday, 9 o'clock at night. That can mean only one thing. The Indianapolis Colts have played a game of football on Sunday. If it was actually a game of football, we'll get into a bit of that. Hopefully it was. There was some good there. It was a very boring game. A very nice Sunday stroll game, you would say. The Colts win 16-10 versus the Miami Dolphins. Brief overview of the game. Anthony Richardson was 10 for 24 for 129 yards passing. Rushing, he went 14 carries for 56 yards. And this, like I said, the score was 16-10. The total yardage was 284 yards to the Dolphins, 337, 129 to 149. Passing yards, 155 rushing to 188. Rushing Dolphin yards, which averaged out at 4.7 yards per play for the Colts, and the Dolphins getting 5 yards per play on the dot. First downs, the Dolphins had more first downs. We was about the same on third down efficiency. Dolphins didn't convert on fourth down. Obviously, that big tackle and big stop by the Colts defense. The Colts didn't try a fourth down play. Total time of possession, the Colts at 28 minutes, the Dolphins 31 minutes, which again is much better than what we were seeing at the start of the season. It's definitely more consistent and more what we need. And the biggest takeaway from this game was the turnover battle. That was the most important number from this game, I would say. And obviously, the Colts forced 2 fumbles, and the Colts had 1 fumble themselves, which I'll get onto later. I don't think it was less of a fumble and more of a breakdown of communication, and a breakdown of timing. So yeah, that's just a quick numbers check for you. Like I say, the game itself, and this is going to sound so weird, I quite like a boring game when I see progress, and I saw enough progress, just enough to not write that game off completely. We'll break down what I think was bad QB play and bad wide receiver play. But to touch on the Dolphins, obviously, just as we wait for Nathan to join, I've never known the Dolphins head coach. I forget his name. Sorry. Mike McDaniel, that's it, yeah. He seems like a very clever coach. He's obviously hamstrung a quarterback, but I have not known, especially this year, probably even including most of last year, an offensive-minded head coach to come into Indianapolis and play straight into Gus Bradley's hands. Every Colts fan can tell you exactly what defense we're lining up in, what's our base defense, what's our scramble 2 defense, what's our 4-minute drill defense, because it is all the same. We rarely blitz. We're a rush 4 cover 3 team, and we don't really stunt. I just don't understand, being hamstrung at quarterback, why the Dolphins just refused. They played right into that. I will get on to Gus Bradley and his defense, because rightly so this season they've come under a lot of stick from me, from others, because they've been awful, right? They've been awful. So I think it's about time I give them some credit, even though it was against backups. And join me now to tell me why I'm wrong and the Colts defense still sucks is Nathan. How are the tires, mate?
A little bit less exploded than yesterday. But no, shout out to the super friendly guy who came and fixed my tyre for me and got me back on the road. But unfortunately, made me late to our plans. So yeah, how are you? How are you this evening?
I'm good. I think I finally calmed down after that game.
Yeah,
It was very emotional, very roller coaster, a lot going on, very electric. It was reminiscent of the loss against the Texans in week one. Uh, Mate, it was. There was. I was just saying before you joined. It was enough of a boring game where I saw enough progress that I leave happy. If that makes sense.
yeah. I think I get what you mean. And I'm sure we'll come on to elements of that progress. But I think there's been times this year where, you know, would you have thought we were going to be 4-3?
So this is really weird. I mean, I was on a pre-season podcast with Andy Davis, who does Across the Pond podcast. I want to say I can't remember off the top of my head. And being the homer that I am, I predicted the Colts going 13-3. So
Well, your prediction's still on.
I was like, this is still on this, boys. But no. So realistically, I feel more annoyed because I feel like if we played any sort of defense in Jacksonville, we're 5-2, and if we don't have stupid mistakes in week one, it's 6-1. And but that's football. Football. Sometimes variances. You can have all the stats in the world. It just doesn't go your way. So I was just talking on the Dolphins, and me personally, I think Mike McDaniel's a very clever head coach. I think he's a very good coach. He's a bit lost without Tua, but you'd be lost without your franchise QB, and any head coach would be. We've seen it ourselves. I don't understand why he played straight into Gus Bradley's hands of going pass heavy.
Yeah, I just think they almost had to, right? The Colts were, obviously elevated some linebackers. At times this season we've been a very easy team to throw on, as me and you have kind of so brazenly pointed out at times this season already. And I agree. I think, I kind of always say this, maybe to my demise, but coming into a Gus Bradley defense must be like the lottery ticket, and I imagine that's what McDaniels was thinking. Obviously, I'm certainly not as clever of a football mind as Mike McDaniels, but I'd definitely be thinking I'm going to attack this soft zone and just, try and get Huntley rolling, because I think they knew they weren't going to have much of the ball. And our weakness this year has been explosive plays, right?
Yeah.
So, and like, I get it. He trusted Tyreek Hill. He trusted Jalen Waddle, and the forgotten man, Jonnu Smith, kind of turns into prime Tony Gonzalez against us. So who would have predicted that?
I don't know how these other teams haven't worked out that the Colts can't defend tight ends yet. We're actually quite good at defending wide receivers. It's just tight ends are useless against. But no, I was just saying you pointed to it. We rightly give this Colts defense a bit of stick over the years. Rightly so. I think it's been below par for quite a while now.
Yeah.
Obviously, Zaire Franklin's not the Zaire Franklin he was last year. EJ Speed's out with an injury last minute. There are guys stepping up, but it's been pretty beatable, this defense, I'd say. It's fair to say. So I think it's time to give him some credit because yes, it was a second and third string quarterback, but like you say, that is still Waddle, Tyreek Hill, even Odell Beckham on that receiving call for the Miami Dolphins, regardless of your QB holding Waddle and Tyreek to 2 catches for 19 yards between them. That's pretty good coverage.
Yeah, and I mean, anybody who was watching the game, all that we were really seeing was records of how little Tariq Hill was doing. I think it was the first time this season that he hadn't been targeted in the first half. The first time in maybe 10 games from, if my memory serves me right, that him and Wardle hadn't both had a catch when playing together in the first half. So, it was an ugly game. And I mean, have you already chatted about Grant Stewart getting 18 tackles?
I've not, mate. He's actually on my little notes that I've got up here. I mean, Colts fans love this guy, right? Ever since he burst onto the scene, like prime Micah Richards for the special teams unit. Because of his hair, right? And people say, "Oh no, I've watched this of him, I've watched that of him." Because of his hair, he stands out, so we know where he is on the field.
Mm.
So it's nice to see one of the guys get a break, get his chance. I say a long time ago, but a while ago, special teams probably wasn't taken very seriously. In quotation marks, because obviously everyone takes the profession seriously, but special teams was seen as the step up. That's how you get into a team. It's not like that now. It's if you're a special teamer, you're usually a special teamer for most of your professional career. And I saw the interview with him in the locker room afterwards where he's like, I'm in my living room taking reps, watching it on tape, and just it shows, every British company that does this, the 5 Ps, prior preparations prevents piss poor performance. It's a staple. We love abbreviating stuff. And it just really shows, and that needs to be a lesson to the rest of the others. I was listening to the Cover 2 podcast, and they were saying people can doubt Chris Ballard all they want, but this is where his strength's showing, right? Because so you have your starting 11 to say, I know it's 53s, but you have your starting 11s, and then you have the others. You have your ceiling raisers and your floor raisers. Chris Ballard floor raisers had done us enough to see us through a period of injuries, setbacks, and doubts. And you look at other teams, like we say, like the Dolphins, not having Tua, they could, bear in mind, in the offseason, Joe Flacco wanted to go to Miami.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want it. Having, them floor raisers can stop your season falling apart because you've lost one player.
Yeah, and I mean, to go back to Grant for a moment, like I just couldn't take my eyes off his play. He was first one to the ball. He's just playing 200 mile an hour, and I've really missed that since 53 was suiting up. Zaire Franklin is still leading the league in tackles, which tends. I think I mean this in the biggest compliment, but that's kind of his position now. This is 3 seasons in a row where Zaire's name is at the top of that table for a lot of the season. But I agree. I think the impact player that we saw last year maybe hasn't arrived yet, but the kind of high standards and tackling, etc., has. And of course, we've faced quite a lot of run-heavy packages. And in the next few weeks, some really good quarterbacks come to town, and some really good defenses come to town as well. So I'm sure we'll get on to talking about Richardson. But but that's absolutely there. I mean, on your point of Ballard recruiting, like Samuel Warmack has been
Wow.
I mean, can we pay him now? But
Yeah.
considering this was a guy who came out of a really good defense in San Francisco, and I'm not going to pretend I'd heard of this guy before.
Yeah.
He rarely seen the field in San Francisco, and he's come and you're like, this could be our cornerback one. He's just locking everybody down, and you got to give Ballard praise for that. But I think it's okay to still say that the path that Ballard has set our defense on this year is an abject failure.
Yeah, he's very clever, Chris Ballard, right? He doesn't take the risk, so there always seems to be a reward, if that makes sense. It's sort of, I'm not going to take the punt on the 29-year-old cornerback because, yeah, he could get me 12 interceptions, but he could also bust his knee, and we've just wasted 3.2 million.
Mm-hmm.
And like you say, he's conservative, so trying to think how to phrase it, but yeah, so for me, he's risen the floor, and I think your point stands of, but yet can he raise the ceiling?
Yeah, I mean, this is year 8 now, if memory serves right, either year 7 or year 8 of Chris Ballard, and it just seems very like as if we've achieved where he can take us. I mean, the rigid approach, it just doesn't seem to be there. And we all want Latu to become, the next Miles Garrett or TJ Watt, or I mean, let's talk about indie players. The next, Mathis or Freeney. That's exactly who we want Latu to become. But we have to give him time to get there, and it was great to see him get a sack. Shout out Latu. Great performance on Sunday. But yeah, look, let's not write Ballard off completely yet. The Colts are sitting 4-3. We could even be top of the South on Sunday if we beat the Texans team that was smothered on Sunday just gone. So let's maybe leave that till our post-season podcasts.
We'll get back to the game. So also give a shout out to I'm going to murder his name, Samuel, the guy who got the fumble and recovered it, a boy.
Oh yes, yeah, I know.
I can't say his name. I can't pretend to say his name.
Abore, is it?
A boy guy or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that I don't remember it. I just pronounce
it. Pronunciation. Yeah, and we don't want to butcher it, do we?
No. But yeah, so I mean, like I said, it's easy as fans to sit and criticize when the defense plays bad, but I genuinely think Dolphins came in, played straight into Gus Bradley's hands, and the defense played extremely well. The run game, missed tackles, yeah, but again, I could quote all this, but we won. That's the important thing, right? If we lost, I'd gladly break this down a lot more, but we got to take when you play bad. I don't even think you play that bad, but when it's one of these type of games where it felt like a training session.
It really did, and I think my kind of mindset on the game changed after I slept on it, because yourself and Elliot were, or I was kind of having a bit of a moan, weren't I, that it was a really ugly game, and it's nothing to be proud of, and you and Elliot were like, well, no, come on, we've just won, win's a win. And once I kind of slept on it, I thought, I mean, hell yeah, we won a really tough game that I think, even 4 weeks ago, I would not have thought we would have won. And just seeing a Colts D like get turnovers again. I mean, we joke about it all the time, don't we? But seeing those turnovers was just an awesome feeling.
Mm-hmm. And we can talk about backups and bad quarterbacks, but both the turnovers come against starters.
Yeah, completely. And one was massive, a really good Miami drive with a lot of good plays, and then we managed to get the ball back on our own 13-yard line, which we all like to play Captain Hindsight in post-game reviews, but that was a massive stop. That the whole game could have changed there because the momentum they were on, our defense was on the field kind of tired. You could see it. It was a long drive, a fast drive, and we came up strong. I mean, let's hope we see more of it because, as I say, there's some big teams coming to town, and that we go to in the next few weeks, and we cannot allow ourselves to go back to what we saw in week 1 and week 2, where kind of the media story of how bad. The floodgates open, so to speak.
Switching sides, the offense, I wanted to save them second because I know I put this in a group and I think I put my point across wrong. I don't want Richardson to be benched ever unless he's throwing like 4 picks. And he needs to be safe from himself. I don't want him to be benched. Where I was annoyed was Miami have one of the better passing defenses in the league. I think it might actually be after
number
Sunday.
One.
Yeah, number one.
Number one.
And it's on third down. It is number one, the best defense as well on third downs. And I said this in my review of last week's game and preview of this game is that we have to make third and manageables. And for me, Shane Steichen just Anthony Richardson is not going to be Joe Flacco. He's just not. You can. Oh, he needs to learn. Yes, he does need to learn, and he needs to hit these easy passes. But I don't think it was a very good scheme for that game, and that was my annoyance. Was if you're going to have Richardson pocket passing, learning, bearing in mind this is probably like he's if you're taking full games into account, he's only like his 18th full game since high school. That's mental. He's younger than Josh Downs. I didn't know that.
So he's the youngest QB in the league.
This is a long road ahead, and I just think, yes, he needs to make better throws. That will come with time. I'm not worried about that. But I think you've got to put him into a position to succeed, and then when he doesn't succeed after you've put him in the position, then you go, all right, we need to look at something rather than it's 3rd and 8 against the best defense in the league. We've dropped another pass. That wasn't like. Do you know what I mean? That was sort of my point. So, Anthony Richardson, what was bad QB play and what was bad wide receiver play?
A great question, and a great way to intro this section. So, props to you, mate. Look, I agree with you in that the scheme on Sunday was awful, and fair play to Coach Shane for going to the podium and taking full accountability for it. It was great to see that in the right era. What would we have seen there? Lots of excuses, lots of mountain climbing analogies or whatever. But we saw our head coach walk up to the podium and say, "Yeah, that was on me.
I got that wrong.
I was terrible today." Look, we had a lot of drops, right? Can't excuse it. There were some poor throws too. I think when I watched the game back, I was like, AR probably wants that one back, or probably wants that one back. And going into the first half, only completing 4 passes in pro football is kind of scary. Even as I think I'll I'll probably be the lone survivor of the AR club in UK Colts fans if it does go really bad. Because I do see major ceiling in the guy. But
Yeah.
one thing I really want to ask you about,
Mhm.
maybe to answer or to kind of pivot it in a different direction, because what we didn't see on Sunday that made it look worse, especially to a non-Colts fans, in my opinion, was a splash play, or a big meaty throw or a huge
Yeah, yeah.
touchdown
A
throw.
highlight play.
Yes, we
Yeah.
saw a very kind of ugly QB performance from a throwing point of view.
Hmm.
However, what we saw from a kind of really interesting point of view was Richardson avoiding pressure and avoiding getting sacked.
Hmm.
And I looked it up earlier. He's actually got the lowest sack percentage in QBs in the league right now. And we
Yeah.
saw why on Sunday. Like, you cannot tackle that guy.
No. Amazing. And this is where you don't mention because Joey Flacco gets sacked, right?
Completely.
And
Completely.
also, Joey Flacco throws an interception. You know, everyone's like Joey Flacco this, Joey Flacco that, bench Richardson. Well, Joey Flacco's had two interceptions in 2 games. This game that Anthony Richards, the fumble, it was more mistiming than a fumble, I would say. So I'm not really putting that on him. That's on everyone. But barring that team error, he didn't throw an interception this game. Like, yes, he completed like 10 passes, but there was no interception. That to me, the most impressive play to me was a check down to Trey Sermon.
Oh yeah, the most
That
interesting check down.
honestly, that to me is that play should say to every coach, every media pundit, anyone who's ever played the game, the Manning cast on Monday night, everybody should watch that play, and that's the ceiling of this guy because it is the most fanciest simple play ever. It's designed to get Alec Pierce open, right? That's the game of that play. The Dolphins went, you're doing a trick play. When you do the trick play, Shane goes deep. And maybe last year or even 3-4 games ago, he tries running upfield, he throws an interception, but he goes, read 1, 2, 3, not open. Everyone's dropped off. Just give it Trey Sermon. That
Yeah.
is a mature QB play, and it's just one of them,
But
That,
I totally
yeah,
see the point you're trying to make,
yeah,
because it would have been really easy for a young QB's eyes to just go completely open and see himself on red zone almost.
yeah,
Hear Scott Hansen going, my God,
yeah,
what are we
yeah, yeah,
seeing in Indy right now?
yeah,
We know he's got the arm to do it, but what we actually saw was moving the chains. We
yeah,
go again, we get a first down, we're back to 1st and 10, and we're going again. And this is the type of growth that we need to see this year. And I'm always gonna criticize that. Like, okay, AR was injured, right? We didn't really have a choice.
mhm,
But what Joe Flacco has essentially done is, and it's totally fair, I have to admit, at times on Sunday, I was doing it.
mhm.
It's given the observer the thought of, this could be different.
Yeah,
And an example of that is Josh Downs.
mhm,
So Josh Downs, last week was everywhere. You know,
yeah,
third down machine. It was like, we kind of joked about it, didn't we? It was like Luck and Hilton type
mhm,
connections. He was just there and, running our offense. This week, he had one catch for 6 yards
yeah,
and just looked like anybody. And I think if you don't have Joe Flacco, on your sideline, like you're probably not imagining what could be. You're just sitting there going, yeah, AR's learning, he's
Yeah.
he's getting his feet, he's finding his feet. And maybe you don't even think like, oh, Flacco would have converted that, or Flacco would have made that pass. But yeah, I think that's a really big part of the Richardson debate.
Yeah. And I think it is brutally unfair to compare a 22-year-old who's played like 5 NFL games for his whole career to, before a horrendous late hit, a Super Bowl winning QB.
Yeah,
In the league 15 years. Of course, Joe Flacco is going to make the 6-7 yard pass because he's done it for 15 years. I was just honestly, I think that check down for Trey Sermon was the only time I got off my couch on Sunday night because it was just exactly what I wanted to see from Anthony Richardson this game. And he probably could have got more just taking off. He probably could have got 15 yards, but he didn't. He made the QB play, and I think even though it was let me say it was the fanciest check down of all time, but 9 out of 10 times, every other QB in the league doesn't do that.
Yeah, they just launch it, air raid, and as you say, it's probably going into triple or even quad coverage, and defense is marching back on. So, it was a great play, and just some kind of maturity in what hasn't always been mature in Richardson's game. An example of, I think, immaturity, borderline stupidity that I want to see coming out of his game is this fascination he's got with like bulldozing defensive backs over. You know that play when he dropped his shoulder into that DB? Like that's his throwing shoulder. And he's running, at superhuman speed, because let's be honest, he is Superman. Superhuman speed, dropping his surgically repaired throwing shoulder. And I'm just thinking, what, imagine Shane and Reg, everyone on the sideline must be like wincing, going, is he getting back up? Just slide or go out of bounds.
And I think this is really interesting, right? And I think for me, this is where we're having a failure in coaching. Because, hey, even if I'm Joe Flacco, right? Even if I'm Sam Erlinger, I am grabbing him by the face mask when he comes off and saying, what the are you doing? Like, do you want a 10, 15-year career in this league? Yeah, well, career average lifespan has shortened massively over years. So let's say, do you want an 8 to 10-year career in this league where we go on championship runs where you can win a Super Bowl? Do you want to be in that position, like Patrick Mahomes is now? Or do you want to be out of the league in 2 years because you've had so many CTEs, you've dislocated your shoulder 3 times, you've had to have a bloody surgery on your neck, and you're being caught, and we're going drafting the next biggest thing in Arch Manning. Like, this is a serious conversation that even if you're Chris Ballard, if I'm Chris Ballard, I'm dragging him aside and saying, who do you think you are? I know you're bigger than these guys, but all you have to do is fall awkwardly, and that's it. Your season's done.
And I think we joked about it a few weeks ago, didn't we? That in 2 years' time, if it doesn't all work out, Ursay's sending the farm, right? And I think there's an element of seriousness to it. Not that it would be Arch Manning, because I think we'd have to be a pretty bad team to be there at first overall to get him. But you think of next year. I don't see there being a big name backup in Indy. You kind of have to back your man there. It's year 3. of a 5-year rookie deal, you're kind of saying, look, the reins are yours now. You've got to stay healthy, you've got to win games, etc., etc. So if Richardson is injured again all season this year, or something, touch wood, let's both touch wood at the same time that doesn't happen. But if it does, and then we get to next year and we have no backup, and Richardson's down again, or playing really poorly because he's not progressing, because he can't stay on the field, you almost know that time's up for Ballard, and I think Steichen will be gone too. It won't be his fault, because the guy hasn't even had 10 games with his own playbook in his Colts career, because he's constantly having to create a playbook for Gardner Minshew or Joe Flacco or whoever the next man up is. But I definitely see, there being a 2-year window to Ballard and Richardson, 1,000%, 1,000% 2-year window, because Arch is literally sitting there.
He did slide right in the fourth quarter, I think. He took a slide.
He slid in the first two, and it had a standing ovation from Lucas Oil Stadium.
Exactly.
Because that's what we want to see. Just get down and get back into the next play,
Just like, and like I say, at this speed these players are running at, of someone of AR's size, he's bigger than most DBs in the league, but all it takes is for him to fall awkwardly. That's how he got injured last year, right? It was, he went into a hit and fell awkwardly, and that was his shoulder gone. Just don't take that hit. You don't need to. Not in this day and age where, the penalties for hitting the QB there's a pretty low bar for a flag. You don't need to go into contact. Just take the slide, and hopefully, somebody catches you and you get a 15 yards.
Yeah.
But like we say, that's what kids think. That's when you're a kid, you think you can do that, right? You think you'll live forever at 22. I can't believe he's younger than Josh Downs. That's amazing, but I'm still stuck on that fact. But anyway, moving on, because there are other people to talk about. So when I say this, I say it with a pinch of salt, right? I know that the players in the NFL are the top 1% of they're the 1% of the 10%, right? And the 0.1% of the 1% are the best players. I did not realize how much of that 0.1% was Jonathan Taylor until this game. Because Trey Sermon looks like he's running in treacle.
Yeah, he really does.
Goodson, this wasn't really. He had a good game, but it wasn't really the game for him. I don't know why we keep trying to run him inside. But when I say how slow is Trey Sermon, obviously with a pinch of salt, that I can't even run 40 yards. I don't think so. But it's this type of game that makes you realise how much of an impact DeForest Buckner, Jonathan Taylor actually have on a game.
Yeah, and from what I was reading of Steichen's press appearance earlier, they may be back in the next week to 2 weeks. So that is huge news for our team. But yeah, you're right. And I think that was an element of why, Sunday felt like a bit of a training session, felt like a bit of a walkthrough, the kind of 0.1%, as you so rightly say, that we see, every week, every game that you watch an NFL game, the 0.1 will take over the game, and there just wasn't anybody taking over it. Players just looked absent or were very absent. So yeah, you make an excellent point, and Taylor is a special player, which is why we were all so glad that we managed to re-sign him. But again, similar to the AR debate, your greatest ability is availability. And I just hope that Taylor can make it to the end of the season now without more time out.
I know he's taken a big contract, hasn't he? So
yeah, and you look around the league. I'm in some fantasy leagues, and I'm a big fan of Jameer Gibbs out of Detroit. I'm a big fan of Kenneth Walker out of Seattle, and it's frustrating sometimes because Taylor's capable of that. Taylor's capable of these highlight reel runs and multi-touchdown games every week, but he's often on the sidelines. It's so frustrating.
So, and I do want to say this to Trey Sermon. What an amazing chip block he did on Chop Robinson.
Oh yeah, that was huge.
Absolutely. If I'm Shane Steichen, that is the first play we're rewatching as a team on Monday morning. That because he could quite easily not do his job there. He could quite easily whiff that block and be like, "Well, I'm running back. I don't need to do that." But Chop Robinson's hands obviously go up with Bernard Raymond. Tackle. So their hands obviously go up, knowing that he just absolutely bulldozes a defensive end who then goes, "Do you know what? When you get hit in football, it hurts. It hurts." So fair play. And onto the O line. Yeah, I've seen the O line get a bit of stick for this game. I, for the life of me, I can't work out why. I thought they, especially in pass protection, I know the blitz got through, but you didn't get sacked. But I thought they've done a pretty good job considering it's a bit of a beat up O line as well.
Yeah, it was a beat up O line, and I think it goes back to the point of Richardson being there to elude the sack pressure, because if that wasn't happening, Sunday was way more ugly. I think the Dolphins could have had 3-4 sacks if that's Uncle Phil or Joe Flacco back there. But yeah, the Colts O line for me this year has been like primetime TV. I can't take my eyes off them when we're on O, which I love the trenches. It's kind of part of the ugly that lots of people are really not bothered about. But I think the O line did absolutely fine. It was a kind of a beat up Miami D line as well. Obviously, Chop probably wasn't meant to get as many snaps as he did when they drafted him, but good for him. I thought he had a good game, but obviously not good enough. So, and going back to the running backs, 30 seconds on the running backs. The Colts are a team that I think are crying out for an RB2, and I think it should be a real focus in the draft in 2025. Yeah. So Goodson and Sermon really should be targeting that position, because we are absolutely crying out for an RB2 that can run a bit of a 1-2 punch next year. That's all I kind of end on with the running backs.
I know, and we sort of had RB1 and RB1.2 with Nyheim Hines.
We all miss Hines.
And it's a bit of a shame because he's too good to be a running back one. A running back two, Nyheim Hines. So it's a bit of a shame how that worked out, but yeah, we do miss Hines. And I just back to the O line, Quentin Nelson. Jesus Christ! This for our touchdown play, he just goes, "No, you're not stopping this play." He literally just, "No, you're not doing anything on this play." And he just pushes the guy away. I thought that was again, that was another play that got me excited. To touch on a team that the part of the ball that I thought won again was the special teams.
Yeah, I agree.
Matt Gay, he's been obviously was obviously injured before and had an injury and was dealing with that. So to hit a plus 50 is a bit of a not a mind break. It's like he's knocked down that barrier, right? Whenever a kicker comes back after an injury, the sort of question everyone says is, can they hit over 50? And he did.
Yeah, and we've asked that question this year, right?
Yeah.
Sitting recording, we've had wobbles over Matt Gay and the kicking position that we've spoken about in the group chat at times this year. And we've been blessed, haven't we, with greatest of all time kicking for us. But you kind of just want your kicker to come out at that 50 range and just nail them over and over again. And you don't want that doubt in your head that it's going to go wide. And I think, unfortunately for Matt and his injury this year, that doubt has been there. And, Shane's even had to kind of go to the podium and back him twice this season as well.
Yeah,
I always pay attention to that. Yeah. So, yeah, great for the team, where like we're going up against Minnesota, which just got moved to prime time in week 9. We're going to have to make kicks there because Flores' defense is like a joy to watch. Shout out Brian Flores. Going to be a head coach next year, no doubt about it. But we are going to have to make kicks in that game at maybe 55-60 to stay in it. So. Sorry to obviously jump 2 weeks in the future, but you make a great point. Matt's obviously feeling good again, and he should be. He's the highest paid kicker in the league.
Yeah. So let's move on to the future. So we've just got through the valley of bad quarterbacks, and now we're going into the what would you call it? A crevasse of good teams.
Oh yes. Oh yes,
obviously,
and some really good QBs too.
I think my sort of overview of the Texans stands of they've signed a lot of good parts, but I think the wheels might start falling, especially if we win. I know it's a big ask, but if we win, I feel like the Texans might start to just fall apart a little bit. And then
I mean,
go on. I'll let you talk on that.
I mean, the Texans got restraint on Sunday. 89 total yards of offense, which doesn't sound very CJ Stroud to me. The guy's an absolute machine. And I look at that 2 ways. Your way is way one. Is this the right time to play Houston? Nico Collins has just gone down. They're just coming off a restraining game where they're going to have to find their feet again. Or is it the absolute worst time to play the Texans when that whole offense is just looking to bounce back?
Yeah. So then obviously we play the Vikings away, obviously in their stadium. Then the Bills come to us, and then Jets, who I'm less worried about, but then the Lions. So this is the make or break second third of the season, right? And I think even if we can come out of this sort of 5-game stretch with 2 wins, I think we're all right there. I think we're still in a good position there.
I totally agree, and I think you're so spot on with your evaluation there of this is whether we make it to the dance or not. We have to. Yeah, I think 2 wins is absolutely the goal here. Where they'll come, I really don't know. I huge admirer of Detroit this year. I do not think we'll win that game. We're just not going to keep up with them and get them off the field enough. Jets, that's absolutely a game we should be targeting. But again, a 22-year-old AR has got to go up against Mr. Rogers, in prime time lights in MetLife Stadium. That's a big ask for a 22-year-old kid. So yeah, this is our season. This is where we can kind of see the admission gate to the dance, which is, you know, the playoffs. So I really do think that the gates are in sight. Of course they are. We're 4-3. We're sitting second in the South. The Titans are completely irrelevant. The Jags are probably just about as irrelevant. It's really in our control to sneak in this year, I think. And I'm not saying that because I'm being cocky. I just think that we have a genuine shot at finishing second in the South this year.
And to round up this bit of the show, I want to say this, and this is completely taken from a Colts fan point of view, right? I feel like at the minute in the AFC, I don't know the NFC, I can't say I know it too well. In the AFC, there's a lot of good teams, there's a lot of bad teams, and then there's the Colts. And I really feel like we're just in the middle of no man's land at the minute. I feel like now that might be a bit ignorant to other teams, but I feel like we really are just in the middle. And getting to 4-3 was so important because if we do beat the Texans, it gives us that buffer of not falling back to 500.
Yeah, and you know, you can sort of always read into when your team gets flexed into prime time. You know, you kind of always think, someone's watching the cut. Oh, that's how I feel the last 5 years. You know, I remember the Denver primetime game. Remember that? We subjected the whole world to that. But yeah, you know, you kind of know the league's on notice when you're being flexed into those slots. And for us to be primetime 2 out of 3 weeks, I think is really interesting. And will hopefully put the league on a little bit more of alert of Indy. But I'm really looking forward to this period of the season. I'm really looking forward to debating it with you here. And I think 2-game wins is absolutely, if we could, or if someone joined this stream now and offered us to jump forward 5 weeks and have won 2 games, would you take it?
God, of course you would. The team, you know, I'd love to think I'm a gambling man. Now it falls where it falls, but the teams we're coming up against, you obviously, if you're asking me which two, we need to be the Texans and the Jets, right? They're the 2 big ones for me. You know, people might say, "Oh, for AFC standings, you take a win against the Texans and the Bills or something like that." A win against the Texans and the Bills would be absolutely perfect for us. But yeah, you take 2 wins out of these 5 games. Of course you do. You're going up against 2 5-1 teams and a very good Texans team. Yourself, you're taking it.
Yeah, I think I would, because I'm trying to do the maths whilst kind of dreaming about it. And I believe that would put us 6-6 at week 12 with 5 games left to play.
Yeah.
You know, you take that. We could finish 10-7. We could finish 11-6. Like that's mad to think about that we could be there. But yeah, looking forward to the next few weeks, and it all starts at Houston, and let's just hope that we don't get kind of Super Saiyan Stroud showing up. That's my big worry.
Yeah, so I mean, if the season ended now, we're in the playoffs, number 6 seed. Like you say, if we can get 2 wins against the Bills, who are currently 4th in the playoff picture of the AFC, you know, so that would be a win over them, and then a win over the Texans, who are 2nd in the AFC. That'd be so massive, and it'd just be so nice to get one back on them. But
yeah, completely.
I mean, I've got a fun little game to end the show. So unless you've got anything you want to add now.
No, happy to wrap it up, mate.
So I've got a fun little game for you. And I might try and do more of these because they are fun. So I'm going to give you the year and a little paragraph of a player from that year from PFF. And I want you to try and guess who it was.
Okay.
Okay. So the year, so it's the Colts, all right. So I've narrowed it down to the Colts here. I'm not that mean. So the year is 2018. Cast your mind back. Probably the last time the Colts were probably a fun football team.
Mm-hmm.
So this player had a PFF grade of 77.7. While and the caption about him is while blank had a career year in coverage, his ability against the run was key for the Colts. Cover 2 heavy defense. He finished the season with the second best run defense grade of all corners. Do you want that again?
Corners, so Fonte?
No, it wasn't.
Corners,
Do you want one more guess, or do you want me to give it you?
2018.
Yeah.
Corners. I can't think. So much has happened in Indy in 6 years. Corner.
Do you want me to give you his initials?
Yeah. Let's see if I can get it then.
So his initials are P and then D.
I'm going to kick myself when you say it because I can literally see his face in my head, in my mind. Go on. Who is it?
It is cornerback Pierre Desir.
Oh, yeah. And literally, I have his face and his jersey in my mind right now. I just could not put a name to it. Damn it! I backed myself to get that as well. Damn it! No, I like that. That's a good game. That's a good game.
Yeah, I'll bring a couple more. It's something I completely stolen from an Arsenal podcast. So, if you want to make content, kids, just steal it from everyone else. That's what I do. But no, so to end out the show, the Colts win. That's the most important thing. All the wins count the same. That 9-6 win in overtime against Denver prime time counts the same as this win. The Colts win. Anthony Richardson stayed healthy. That's it. On to the Texans. Let's get them back. They really not week 1. So let's hit them back with one. Show them how it goes. Thanks to everyone watching. Nathan, thanks for joining in. I've heard if you like and subscribe to the UK Colts fans, we're going to win on Sunday. It's as simple as that. And join us after the Colts 34, Texans 0.